Oh no, Sam has been transformed into a cat.
Meow.
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 Quick.
I'm Garfield. That's I can't do Bill Murray or whatever.
Hello, Lulu.
It's understandable that was a very...
Hello, Lulu. Are you in frame? Probably not. Wait, no,
Probably.
you probably is. She
Oh, well.
probably is.
Well, alright. I'm eating. This is really professional.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get water then. I'm Sam.
I'm Matt.
So we just watched the premiere, the first half of the premiere, I guess,
Yep.
of the new X-Files miniseries. Coming at it, I saw a lot of the old series, the first 3 seasons or whatever, so I have some knowledge of X-Files, but haven't seen, for instance, all of it. I'm not.
Yeah. I have seen all of it, but I don't remember all of it, partly because it was a long time ago, and partly because some of the later bits were kind of shit. So, here's the thing. I think they kind of tried to get this sort of to you, if I recall the way it turns out. Basically, no, Mulder's sister's not still hanging around. She's...
Okay, oh yeah, so spoilers.
Spoilers.
And all. And some of these spoilers might be
Spoilers for a decade-old series.
semi-relevant even to the episode, but just trying to figure out what exactly is canon
Yeah.
here. Okay, so the one thing I remember is that his sister had like clones made of her, maybe? And
Something
one of
like
them,
that.
there were a bunch of them, and then they all died. So that whole thing was totally, basically irrelevant.
Yeah, but it's
in the
not
end.
really her...
But kind of interesting irrelevancy.
Yep, and he was like, she wasn't really abducted by aliens or whatever. And the thing about all that was, I think a lot of fans agreed that that was a bit of a disappointing ending. So I got almost, like, X-Files kind of didn't go, so to speak, well, let's say.
Overall,
it always was true the Monster of the Week was the best part.
I mean, they telegraphed this from the very beginning. From the very beginning, the Monster of the Weeks were the best.
Yep.
That was consistent. Even season 1, which was a little weaker, and season 2 and 3, which are the ones I've seen, the Monsters of the Week were generally pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But the sort of myth arc episodes tended to be at least a strong step down.
Yep, and they were at least, you know, you kind of at least sometimes felt you were going somewhere. And often by the end it felt like you hadn't gone anywhere.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
It was sort of the same thing as Lost.
Yeah.
So here's kind of what we get from this. What I'm seeing is it looks like they are going into this trying to effectively kind of maybe retcon the ending. I feel like retcon is maybe a too strong of a word. Maybe this just comes from me reading like comic books. But retconning to me has this sort of aspect of everything, like these things that clearly happened, we have muddled with time and didn't happen. But like, or you know, secretly, even though it obviously must have happened, it didn't happen. With X-Files, because layers of conspiracy,
Yeah.
like say a Shrek onion, were so important to it. Having it turn out that everything was a conspiracy all along, and it was the conspiracy you thought was the conspiracy, was actually a conspiracy of another conspiracy. So, that said, like I think going that route was kind of necessary. You know me.
I do know you, yes.
We've met a couple times. We actually only met the first time you saw us on camera. We've fortunately become very close since then. But all those like the podcasts we might put up that claim it's earlier, that's the conspiracy. Just blew your mind. We brought you in on
It
the
was a
conspiracy.
fictitious podcast.
Yep. So
We should do something about that podcast eventually.
Yeah,
It's
we
a
should.
weird, tangled thing. But
this is
that's for another day.
yeah. So here's our let's say. Going into, I think, saying that the ending of X-Files was kind of a conspiracy to make you think it was a conspiracy is probably the best way to go. Because it was a little unsatisfying, and the answer being, of course it was unsatisfying, it was a lie, feels alright. It doesn't feel like you cheapened something that was not good.
I think the overall effect of this in the new episode,
Yeah.
is this sort of feeling like, hi, I'm Mulder, I believe in aliens. Aliens didn't do it.
Yeah.
It sort of feels like I was supposed to be invested in something I wasn't. And I'm coming at it sort of as pretending to be someone who hasn't seen the old series because I value that.
I think
But
it's
also
important that
even-
we try to do that.
Even as someone who had seen and liked all these Monster of the Week episodes in the first 3 seasons, I'm coming into this, I'm like, I don't care. I just sort of feel like, why is this happening now?
Yeah, like, and the thing is, you know...
Compared to, this doesn't feel any more dramatic, and the evidence doesn't feel like any more big of a deal than any of the other Myth Arc episodes he was in.
Yeah. Well,
but we're supposed to believe that this is just overturning everything for Mulder. But it doesn't emotionally feel like a big deal.
yeah, going into this from a perspective, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And this is a little bit of a mistake. Now, you know, as much as a lot of fans of old Doctor Who, you know, were not thrilled by a lot of the things in the new series, that they feel kind of undid a lot of stuff. I don't mind if you bring back your show 13 whatever years later and say, hey, you remember all that? Okay, whatever, forget about all that. Here's what we're doing now.
But it feels more like they're trying to take a running start with the old series, but it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
It feels somehow artificial, or
Yeah, going,
like I'm just thrust into it all of a sudden.
Yeah, they're trying to cancel out the ending so the new series fans don't feel lost. At the same time, like, Mulder, Spooky Mulder has, you know, ended. He's concluded aliens don't exist, but he wants to believe, is what he'd said. Oh, I always wanted to believe.
He concludes that he hasn't proven they exist.
Yeah, which, here's kind of a problem from this, going into this. Mulder goes into this feeling a little, like, almost like he doesn't believe any supernatural shit exists. And it's like, okay, dude, sure, you did not prove that alien conspiracy. But you know what? Like, you
There were, like,
totally proved voodoo. Like,
Werewolves,
you proved leech dudes.
reincarnation,
Oh god, reincarnation, serial killer reincarnation.
vampires twice,
Yep.
psychic abilities on many
Satan.
occasions,
You proved Satan. That's got to count for something.
mind control, ability to give people your own dreams.
Basically, like, there's all this weird stuff that he proved, so...
Like,
him
why does
seem-
it have to be aliens?
Like, him... Obviously, like, aliens were his, you know, how I got into this, but going to the point of view of, like, oh, well, I'd always wanted to believe, but I found out theirs don't exist. Like, but look at all the shit you found existed.
Yeah.
How can you be so blasé about it? You know?
Like, that stuff, like, Scully's not going to deny it, even though Scully's got this
He was in the
reputation.
room. Yeah. But,
Like,
yeah.
Like, she saw the mind-controlling alien viruses.
Yep.
Like, she was there.
Yeah. Like, why are you hung up on this? So it did seem a little weird to have him.
For him to be fully discouraged.
So-
I mean, clearly the world needs Mulder to be stopping all these crazy problems. It's just
Yeah.
that whenever he goes up against aliens in the myth arcs, he always fails completely.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, here's the thing. It's like, yeah, I get you care about your sister, but, you know, the world's been almost about to end in one-off episodes of the week, dude.
Yeah.
have you not, like, been fighting that shit? So, but here's the thing, like, they want me to go into this both with the eyes of an old series fan. Let's just assume if I did like the previous arc, I'm like, oh, great, I wasted my time for 9 seasons. If I didn't like the previous arc, which I didn't, fine, good, it's gone, but you haven't put anything interesting in its place.
I think that's the problem, yeah.
Now here is an one thing. So let's talk about the standout best part of this episode. Joel
I don't know what it
McHale
is. Oh, Joel McHale?
as Alex Jones, basically.
I disagree,
What
sort
do you-
of, or maybe I agree. It's just I'm not in love with it, but it might still be my favorite part of this episode, which I didn't actually like.
Yeah,
very
I mean
much.
it was not a great episode. But
I love Joel McHale. I don't know if he's giving the Alex Jones performance or whatever, or if he's convinced me as this person. He just feels like Joel McHale again. Like, this might as well be the soup.
You know, he definitely obviously is not giving you Alex Jones exactly, though. He does. Here's the thing. He seems like one of those actors who just has one mode. So I can see, having seen a fair amount of Alex Jones. In my defense, I was writing a story with a conspiracy theorist in it, and I wanted to get a view for different conspiracy theorists that might exist. I was not following Alex Jones. I feel like I need to defend myself.
Oh, if you're going to protest, I mean, okay.
Maybe I don't
if you're really
protest
that
so too
scared.
much.
Yeah.
The one thing I remember about Alex Jones, the thing was that lost all credibility, was him accusing like the Seahawks of being in on some conspiracy to win the Super Bowl, and like his evidence was clearly just Alex Jones doesn't know shit about sports. But here's part of the problem about Joel McHale as Alex Jones. So they've changed the conspiracy around to be a 2000s conspiracy.
Yeah.
And they brought in Joel McHale playing sort of the Alex Jones, the voice of the 2000s conspiracy theorist,
Yeah.
meeting Fox Mulder, the voice of the 90s conspiracy theorist.
That is a cool dynamic.
I would have loved to see a lot more done with it.
Yeah.
The 2000s conspiracy theorist who can get rich off his conspiracies, who is talking about, mostly about the Bilderbergs and the multinational corporations and Obama, while you've got the 90s conspiracy theorist who believes in the aliens and the voodoo and the replicants or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The crazy guy meets the sort of smartened up version of himself. And they did a lot with, I like Mulder's costuming in this. I mean,
Yeah, good costume.
Duchovny never looks haggard, even in like the old series. I never saw him look in a manner that I thought he was tired.
No, there was one episode where Scully had been abducted and she still wasn't back.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
The one episode where they were like, "Are you okay, Mulder?"
Though
It's like,
that-
well, maybe you should go get some sleep. I don't sleep.
That was
That was I was on my floor laughing, and then
That
I
was
got
a-
up and I was like, "Mulder, are you okay?"
That was a stand-up performance, though. Like he still looked like he didn't look this type of haggard. He didn't look like somebody he looked like somebody who's working his ass off, not somebody whose life has gone to hell.
Mhm.
So he really pulled out all the stops on this, but you can only do so much, and you can give a good actor a bad script, and he can elevate it a little, and he did elevate it a little. Ultimately, they don't know what they're trying to do, because you can't bring... Okay, here's part of the thing. It's 13 years later.
Yeah.
Mulder can sort of have mentally recovered from the events. It's over a decade. As great as his sort of haggard thing was, Fox Mulder as a character, Duchovny has this sort of deadpan wit to him that he can't bring out in this haggard mode. And that was so much what drove it, the Scully-Mulder relationship.
The Scully and Mulder relationship isn't here.
It
That's
isn't.
the strange
like,
part.
They got together and they broke up.
My
But-
honest belief, though, is their design for the series is by episode 6,
Yeah.
they're Mulder and Scully again.
Yeah.
That's probably what they're going for.
Yeah, my thing is, if I were making this series, and, I'm saying, taking this, obviously we can think of maybe, once we see the second thing, what the perfect idea of this specific story they're telling. If I were making this series, I would have Mulder and Scully are on good terms. They got together, they broke up, they kind of will hang out sometimes. A lot can happen in 13 years. You can say all that shit that Mulder did that gets him in prison and whatnot. We can just forget about that and say he's at the FBI for another reason. Because I want to, if I'm reintroducing the show to the audience, I want to reintroduce it as this is why you would love the X-Files.
Yeah.
So what I think is their hit, so to speak, is kind of clearing the slate so you don't need to know too much of the previous series lore. You really only need to know about sort of Scully's alien impregnation thing. What I would have done, I would have had them at least on good terms. Maybe Fox is at the FBI, maybe he's somewhere else, but he is kind of put together. They've sort of moved on. Maybe that's a little what they wanted to say, but in comes Joel McHale as Alex Jones, but in comes Joel McHale. Joel McHale has researched Fox Mulder, is a big fan. Joel McHale has uncovered these things. Now, here's the first step I would say I would have taken in a different direction. The most important step, I guess, aside from reinstating the Molly Sculder dynamic, I just fucking said that, is Joel McHale is going to feel lost. Instead of being the guy who knows the things,
Yes.
which he was in this episode, Joel McHale he feels lost because he's been following these conspiracies, the conspiracy to take your gun away, the conspiracy to knock down 9/11, these various conspiracies that are the 21st century conspiracy. Then he finds in his research evidence of the 90s conspiracy. He calls Molly and Sculder because he, doesn't know what to do.
Sculder?
Molly and Sculder.
Molly and Sculder. Okay.
He calls Molly and Sculder. I've said that twice now. He calls them and he says, because he doesn't know what to do. Because this is outside of his pay grade. He's been dealing with the Bilderberg Group. And now he's dealing with the alien invasion. I think
Mulder here figures out who he is and quietly excuses himself and hangs up. And then Joel McHale keeps calling.
Yep.
And eventually Mulder, sorry to co-opt you.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Yeah.
I like working with you on this.
And then eventually Joel McHale gets his attention, but Mulder is pretty skeptical.
Yep.
Not sure how to pull Scully in.
Here, here's the reason that's part of why I'd say they should be at least on fairly good terms. What I'd say is, Scully, and obviously I know people are going to say, oh, well, there's this canon reason, there's that canon reason that this idea won't work. You know what? One, I'm usually someone who's fine with saying throw out canon, I want to see a story.
Yeah.
Two, 13 years is a lot of time, and maybe the conspiracy thinks they can do something. Because you know what? What's the one thing we learned from the X-Files? The conspiracy is stupid. So maybe they think they can do something. Maybe they think they can go one way or another. But they are, if not working together, basically, Scully is not in Director Skinner's level, but maybe a step below him. She's kind of running the field office.
Oh, you're thinking she should still be in the FBI?
Yeah, they're both back to the FBI. I know, again, there's canon reason they can't. It's 13 years. And she is kind of a middle management person who, she's got Mulder, either he's actively there or he's sort of on special assignment. She has him do things, the X-Files things, to protect the freaking world from aliens.
Yeah.
Not aliens, the devil. Bigger problem than aliens.
Yeah, there was
the devil exists.
You know what? The devil was kind of very helpful in that episode, though.
The devil exists as a high school substitute teacher.
And is dealing with the actual bad guys of the episode.
The devil is going to completely fail to follow Mrs. Murphy's lesson plan. And Sculder has to stop this.
Is that on purpose?
I think it's happening so much.
It's late.
Oh, it's past your bedtime. But, okay, here, he's not in the FBI, but he works sort of freelance for the FBI in this type of thing. He starts getting these calls. Like, he gets a call, it's like, hi, it's Alex Jones. You need to look at this. And he, looks at, you look at the Alex Jones page or whatever, it's like, oh, god damn it, that's this guy. And then, he gets he goes out for a walk and he gets a call on his cell phone. And he's like, damn it. He answers it, it's like, hi, it's Joel McHale, I got your cell phone number. This establishes Joel McHale has resources.
Yep.
It establishes, Mulder does not, I got the name, does not respect this guy. And Mulder's trying to avoid it. He's almost consciously trying to avoid getting involved specifically in alien stuff.
Okay.
And, because Scully will only send him out on assignment basically rarely. and then he gets home, and he gets there's a letter in the mailbox. It's like, "Hi, I'm Joel McHale. I'm guessing you didn't actually answer the calls, but I think you needed to see this." And then Mulder rips it up. He gets
Who
up.
sends letters anymore?
And he's got like 3 more voice messages on his home phone. And then he gets really frustrated. He's really upset by all this. He didn't get a good night's sleep. He was really cheering for the Cardinals. And he just grabs the phone, and he just hucks it out the window, and Scully barely dodges it. Because you can kind of see that scene happening in the episode. Scully dodges it, and she comes in, she's like, "Mulder, there's something we need to talk about." And gets in the limo, and there is
Joel McHale.
And he's like,
"Oh,
he's
that's
like,
great.
Hey!" And he's like, "Oh, God damn." And then that is like our cold open.
Yeah.
So then obviously maybe we weren't told, the relationship between Scully and Mulder. All we know, Scully seems to have the ability to tell Mulder to get in a car that Mulder will listen to. Then we explain this, and Scully is still kind of her skeptical self, but obviously she believes in these things, and
What things?
aliens and demons and the devil. She believes in such things.
Yep.
Not specifically aliens, but she's, he's like, "Why are you dealing with this guy? This guy's an idiot. Have you seen his show? He's always going on about the Bilderbergs. Like, the Bilderbergs matter." And then she's like, "No, Mulder, you need to check this out. He showed me something. And, he came to us for help. And this is your type of thing." She gives him the file, and then we start getting into basically the idea of why everything, the previous conspiracy was a problem. I will tell you my biggest issue with the previous conspiracy was a problem. I think the previous conspiracy was fake in this show.
The problem with the fact that the conspiracy was fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This kind of gets down to something SFW said in his first review of X-Files. Modern conspiracies suck. The Bilderbergs are boring. Obama wants to take your guns, that's boring. Compared to the demons and the alien abductions, conspiracies just aren't fun. So, the fact that you're taking this, which built itself on the 90s conspiracies, making it about these modern conspiracies, ultimately I think what it has to be is that all the modern conspiracy is a result of the 90s conspiracy. Because going with, this is how... Because we get this scene in this episode where, they're explaining what the conspiracy is, and it's the banks are going to shut down, and then they're going to fake an alien invasion so that...
And then...
they can take over the world.
They don't actually explain the next step, but...
Okay. Yeah. Well, there was some phrasing about that. But yeah, it's like... And they mentioned, they could punish people by causing a drought with their satellites. It's
about that particular, not montage.
This is Gundam!
What?
This is that live-action Gundam movie where the people starvation rule.
You never intended on either one of us discovering an alternative method to agriculture. Because there's way too much power to be had from selective starvation.
No, specifically what I mean is, that particular, montage where Joel McHale is talking, seems suitably crazy.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem credible at all.
Yeah.
And Mulder's nodding along.
Yeah. And I hope that they lean into how crazy it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because here is ultimately, one, you can't have the X-Files with a modern conspiracy because the X-Files has magic and devils and demons.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's all about the modern conspiracy, yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think is you get, that montage, the conspiracy is silly. They want to rule the world. One, don't they rule the world? Who is stopping them from ruling the world? Is it just that you want your name on the, you want to put your name on the sign? Are you Donald Trump? You just need to put your name on everything? You're really upset you can't just get like a forest across Africa that says Trump, rename it to Trump Planet.
But I mean, I think the question is this real?
Yeah.
Is this conspiracy real? I don't know. I mean, I trust X-Files enough to say I have no idea how they'll deal with it.
Yep.
And there are a number of ways they could succeed with it, so I'm happy to see maybe they'll do something right.
Yeah, I'm hoping they go a different way with it too.
But let's talk about some things. We're talking about the sort of the big picture a lot because this is an episode where not much happens.
No, ultimately this is all set up.
Yeah, but I don't appreciate that because this is an episode of television.
And here's the thing that especially I don't appreciate was when they said, "Oh, part 2 of the premiere is coming." It's like, "Oh, good." So that was like the first hour of setup, and now you're going tomorrow. Oh, so
So you thought that they were gonna do the next part, right?
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I get. You felt you had to set this up. This is pretty complex. Now you're going to show me what happens. It's like tomorrow. Here's the thing: if I hadn't basically decided I really am interested in podcasting at least 6 episodes, I wouldn't want to tune in tomorrow. Like after this,
I wouldn't tune in tomorrow. I'd probably watch it at some point.
Yeah, I might watch it at some point once everything wraps up. But you're not giving me something exciting.
So yeah, I mean, I think I'll just bullet point what happens, just in case we've forgotten some thought that we had.
Yep.
So Joel McHale approaches Mulder and says, "Hey, we got this wacky spacecraft, and also here's this lady I know who says that she's been abducted not by aliens but by other humans as part of the wacko experience."
Although he hadn't said that yet.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Still going.
He hid it for her to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then there's also the spacecraft that can turn invisible and hover with using no energy because of some alien technology.
From Area 51
and then sort of they just sort of hang out for about 15 to 20 minutes with nothing happening.
Yep.
Joel McHale shows up at Scully's workplace, and Scully's like, "Hi," and he's like, "Hey, just wanted to
look into starting a romantic subplot. You interested?"
Maybe, I guess.
I mean,
probably.
that's basically how that scene.
But
worked.
it didn't. There's no like chemistry, or even apparently an attempt at chemistry of that kind.
I saw him wanting to be with her because he's a sleazebag and she's not interested. Was where I
It's
saw
like,
that.
but it doesn't really come off as a sleazebag. He's just sort of mild, mellow Joel McHale.
Yeah, that's the problem with casting Joel McHale. Joel McHale is the nicest asshole in the world.
Yeah.
It's sort of the character he plays. And, so I ultimately don't feel too, so go on, Sam.
Yeah. So then Mulder becomes convinced that indeed, as this alien abductee says, she is not an alien abductee, but a human abductee, as part of a conspiracy to use Roswellian
Alien DNA.
technology and DNA to perform experiments for reasons he doesn't really know.
Yeah.
And that all the alien UFO stuff was to get conspiracy theorists to point the finger at aliens when they should be pointing the finger at their own governments.
Yep.
Not the governments, because the governments don't need to take over America. They already have it.
Yeah, the government, the corporations that want to run the country.
Maybe the corporations. Anyway, so Mulder is convinced and he teams up with Joel McHale, and Scully is just sort of also hanging out. That sort of is this episode. And eventually she's like, "Mulder, this is stupid. Joel McHale is not credible. His work on Community is pretty good, but it's not enough reason to just believe any conspiracy."
The soup was all right, but it kind of really failed at its mission. It was, I'd give it maybe a 6 out of 10. I admit I watched it a few times when I was really sick. But what I'm trying to say, Mulder, is
what I'm trying to say is
these kids don't have ears.
And then there's that thing about kids not having ears, and Joel McHale is trying to butter her up, or for either romantic or pragmatic reasons relating to getting her to be on his team for exposing the truth. But even though Mulder gets all in, Scully isn't isn't up for it, and then
She wants to test this girl's DNA to see if she's an alien.
how did I forget that?
And this was the kind of the thing that seems so contrived this episode. It felt like they were trying to just save a reveal for later.
The fact that it came out wrong first.
Yeah, so like she's like, I'm gonna test her DNA and see if she's an alien, and then
comes back.
She's like, she's not an alien, and
But
I checked that DNA, and she wasn't an alien at all. I was absolutely sure of this, Mulder. And then you see like her go on the news and be like, I'm sorry for telling people I was an alien. And Mulder's like, oh, grr. And then Joel McHale is like, grr.
And then Scully's like, I ran the test again. And turns out she had alien DNA.
It's like, yeah, I sequenced her entire genome to see if she was an alien, and she was an alien.
Yeah.
Like,
And then also I ran it on myself, and I'm an alien partly.
Because
I'm part of it. I was abducted, which is something you wouldn't know if you were just coming into this.
Yeah.
You'd probably be confused and wonder if you missed something.
Yep.
If you've never seen X-Files before.
Yeah, although they at least, I feel like, just with you wouldn't know what it's like to be abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
With her
It's not the worst.
reaction
Yeah.
did well, but I worry about people who are maybe not quite that clever might miss the reaction. It's like, oh, what, was she abducted also by aliens? Is this what this caused later when she's like, I also ran it on myself. We need to stop them, Mulder. And at this point, I'm not even 100% sure who them is, except them blew up a lab with an anti-gravity spaceship.
The anti-gravity spaceship gets blown up, and then the witness, who already rescinded her statements and destroyed Joel McHale's credibility, I would assume, or at least to some extent, but then again, it's conspiracy theorists, so it doesn't really matter, but then she gets blown up. It looks like maybe she's going to get abducted, but then she's fucking blown up in her car by a flying saucer of the same type, not saucer, flying vehicle of the same type that was blown up.
Yeah.
So they have some others on standby, the evil government, conspiracy, corporations, industrial complex.
Yeah. So
that's about it. Also, Cigarette Smoking Man shows up and he's like, what? They reopened the X-Files? God, I thought that was done for good. I hate that show. I'm a bad person.
I need another smoke. Here, put a cigarette in my breathing hole.
That is like the natural extension of what Cancer Man is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, to the bravo.
Yeah, that was a nice visual. Having seen Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man,
Which I haven't seen.
I'm sorry that he never achieved his dreams. But
He wanted to become a world-class pastry chef? That's my guess, anyway.
not necessarily a pastry chef.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's like, God damn it, they've reopened the X-Files. It's like, well, at this point, why are you reopening them and calling them the X-Files? It seems like you could just, like, reopen the Y file. You could open the new Y files.
Yeah, no reason to call them the X-Files.
I mean, there's all sorts of things you could do other than legit calling them the X-Files.
So, talking about the story,
Yep.
the problem is, who's Mulder and who is Scully, and why do I care about them?
Yep.
They're two guys who used to hang out and don't, and they're both awkward about it.
And Mulder
But not in any appealing or memorable way.
is really tired all the time, and
Yeah.
Scully is cold and kind of an asshole.
Yeah, and then Mulder gets easily convinced by something that doesn't seem credible at all, and then Scully isn't.
Yep.
But like, why is Mulder convinced? It seems like maybe he's just bad at like finding out the truth.
Yep.
And then Scully is convinced just because of alien DNA or whatever. But I mean, I can speak, of course, from the example set by the old series. It's not correct because the old series did it, but you know, as a piece of example, like she would not be convinced by just that. She'd be like, okay, I have some sort of DNA that's not right. What's going on here?
Yeah, like
She's not going to jump to government conspiracy.
Here's, I think, where we get to the core problem with this episode.
Yeah.
Is they wanted to make it accessible to new fans, and I know this, and also not utterly alienate the old fans by saying just pretend it didn't happen. And I think here's the problem with that, is that if I've never seen it, I'm coming in, one, at the end of these two characters' arcs, and I'm seeing these people who don't seem cool. Like, I don't particularly like them because the show hasn't made them interesting. I'm watching Captain Mopey and the Angry Doctor hanging out with Joel McHale, who is Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Now, what's with, why do I care about Captain Mopey and the Angry Doctor? And so, what they ultimately, by trying to make it accessible, they erased the mythos to make it accessible. But the mythos wasn't what was inaccessible. What was they made it inaccessible by not showing a good reason to like it and just having these sort of characters be there. It's like Mulder and Scully. Who are they?
Yeah, like, they never get around to the point where they make you want to see Mulder and Scully, both separately and hanging out together. They're just people.
Yeah.
They don't feel like characters.
Yep. And so, as an old fan, I go into this as an old fan. I'm going to say the two ways you put it. As the new fan, there are these people who are not really interesting characters who I don't like and who don't have any interesting interaction, and they used to date, but now they don't. But I don't really care about that because I don't care about them. If going into it as an old fan, okay, Mulder and Scully are back, and turns out I wasted all my time with the entire season of the X-Files, all the season of the X-Files, and now conspiracy theories aren't interesting, and Joel McHale is the new Mulder, and Fox Mulder hates Fox Mulder, and I guess, look, they've got all the pencils in the ceiling, and now now I'm just, watching this because I like these characters, but they're not doing anything interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, ultimately, you combine them to make something that's just not that great. And I'm hoping tomorrow I will have a better opinion of this.
Mm-hmm.
But today...
That mostly wraps up my thoughts. I think we already said this, but Joel McHale, in contrast to Mulder, as conspiracy theorists, specifically one being lucrative, having a lucrative career, and the other having basically nothing, was a pretty good choice.
Yep, I would have liked to see more of it.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's grade this out of 10.
Okay. So 5 being average story.
Oh yeah, 5 is okay.
Yeah.
I can tell you where I'm grading this.
Can we do
letters.
decimals?
Sure.
Okay.
Where I'm grading this as letters, I'd probably call it a D or a D minus.
I was thinking D plus.
Yeah. If I'm grading this as numbers, 3 out of 10, D.
2.5.
Yeah.
You know what? It's weird though because I just gave a higher letter grade than you did, and you. Okay, we're not on the same wavelength here, but whatever. It's approximate anyway.
Yeah, I was tempted to call it 2.5 anyway. That's it. It's just
there's not much going on here. I will tell you the part about the episode I enjoyed the most. It wasn't in the episode. It was afterwards. Okay, we're gonna have more X-Files, guys. Here's some preview clips, and there's some spooky zombies, or maybe
zombie kids.
Then
maybe.
there's a spooky kid in the pool, and maybe it's a ghost, and I'm cool. So there's gonna be some non-myth arc stuff.
So you're gonna show us,
or the alien myth arc stuff is gonna become really wacky out there stuff.
Yeah, so that's my hope, is that this gets good, basically.
Yeah. So it seems like they might just drop this myth arc ball and do something else, which I'm fine with.
Or at the very least, veer it away from It's the Bilderberg Group, because, again, I know I was kind of mean to Alex Jones there, no offense to the people who believe that. If you do believe that, if you are an Alex Jones fan, I'm sorry if I upset you, but you gotta admit, that conspiracy is not very cool. It's not fun. It's not thinking that you live in the world with the Bilderberg Group. There's not even a possibility that could be fun. If you believe that's true, you can't tell me it's fun, right?
Yeah.
Alright. So, there we go.
Yep, looking for more variety going forward, but
Let's hope they improve it. Bye.
Bye-bye now.